These two pro gamers played a phenomenal series against each other just a few days ago. Now, at the time, they were also yapping at the very beginning of each of the games. Spotting right here in the top left-hand corner. With the red Zerg pieces, we have none other than Solar. And down in the bottom right, with the blue SCVs, he goes by the name of ByuN. Now, if you enjoy macro games, obviously I haven't seen this series yet. But if you enjoy macro games, especially of Zerg versus Terran, I feel like these two players are the ones to look at. Whenever they go up against each other, I mean, honestly, in general... Oh, jeez. ByuN must have said something really funny. Maybe somebody can translate it. Anyways, usually these two, they like to play the macro match against one another. Rarely do we see them going for hyper-aggressive early game cheeses. I mean, maybe ByuN, right? ByuN used to do that a lot, especially back in the day when he was building all of his stuff, especially his barracks on the other side of the map. But that has fallen out of favor a bit, mostly because the top-level Zergs, like, for example, Solar, have become very good at dealing with it. And effectively, right, the coin flip you make when you go for a proxy barracks is whether or not one of the overlords sees you. Because if you get spotted, you are likely not going to succeed with the all-in. So, there's also obviously a lot of mutual respect. As you may have already noticed, the players chat a lot. Not just these two. Obviously, everything is fair in the game. But it's a lot more satisfying to beat your friends. Even though there's money on the line, even though you're playing tournaments, it's a lot more satisfying when you take a few $100s off of them here and there by playing macro matches instead. Now, Solar is very much so the type of Zerg player that will just absorb every attack early on and then go for some hyper-aggressive follow-ups later. So, especially when the Nidus Worms come online, especially when he can go into, like, for example, Lurker play, that seems to be when Solar flips the switch, and that's when he usually gets very aggressive. We did, however, in that other series that these two played, we did see him go for a very quick Mutalisk opener. I wonder if we're going to be seeing some more experimentation as far as that goes in this particular best of 3. Solar, by the way, so far, seems to be the most well-adjusted player on the new multiplayer balance patch. I haven't been too impressed by a lot of the other Zergs, but in the games that I have seen Solar play so far, and I think it's been about 4 or 5 series, he really has been looking incredibly strong. Now still, Serral has not shown any matches as of me casting this. I don't know how long it's going to be, but Serral has been successfully dodging every tournament invitation so far. So we don't really know. I feel like we can't really tell exactly where Zerg is currently at until Serral shows us how the game is supposed to be played. But I do think it's a relatively fair assessment to say that Zerg is struggling a little bit. The main concern that a lot of Zerg players seem to have against playing against Terran late game, so the style that Solar really likes to go for, is that the Ghost is once more 2 supply rather than 3. And it allows Terrans significantly bigger armies in the late game. About 2 years ago, they nerfed the Ghost. Maybe a year and a half or so ago, they nerfed the Ghost. It was a very overpowered unit in the late game. And now they've effectively reverted most of those changes. I mean, it's gone from 3 supply again to 2 supply, which it always used to be. And then, of course, it also has 120 life, or 125 life now, rather than 100. Now, it does take bonus damage from light units, but it doesn't really seem to impact this particular matchup all too much. So, across the board, I think the changes made to the Ghost especially, and maybe that's one of the reasons why we have seen ByuN try to play the big macro games as well. It seems that, yeah, the changes to the Ghost are just straight up beneficial for this matchup against Zerg. For now, it's going to be Cloak Banshees, triple command center, 1-1-1, single Evo chamber at the front, no Roach Warren or anything just yet. We'll have to keep an eye out on that. Most of the time when Zergs skip the Roach Warren, they go for a double Evo start. At least that is a build order we used to see quite a bit, and then, well, I mean, in the previous patch it kind of fell off a while, and a lot of Zergs are now yet again experimenting with it. Now it's just going to be the armor upgrade. Interesting. Bunch of Hellions threatening to do a run-by over in the natural expansion. Mostly hoping that maybe they can get that creep tumor killed as well. You never really know exactly, though, where it's going to be located. You have to make a little bit of a guess. Queens transfuse each other, though. And that's going to keep all of them alive. Little Zergling run by in the meantime on the other side of the map. Banshee now goes into the main base. Miscontrol right there from ByuN, though. He's going to have to shut down this little Ling over here, too. Land the command center yet again. But all of this, though, is pretty low-key aggression, right? We're really just seeing the players try their very best to deal some damage. Oh, misplay again by ByuN. Can't really keep doing that, ByuN, because it doesn't take much for someone like Solar to just steamroll ahead. 2 SCVs and a Banshee for 3 Zerglings is a phenomenal trade, and looks like Solar is going to celebrate with another hatchery. So this is effectively 3 base full saturation into a double expand off of a single upgrade, a delayed lair, and then also a Baneling Nest eventually. Now, there is a second Evo now. We do see the Baneling Nest here too, so we will get Baneling speed and all that going. But this has been a super greedy start here from Solar, who's already passed 69 drones. Pretty nice for him. 1-1 upgrades, though, coming up right now for ByuN. He's going for a very quick armory. We'll have to keep an eye out on exactly why we are building it already. Normally, you build it so you can start up the 2-2. I wonder if maybe he wants to go for any sort of Hellbait aggression or maybe begin some sort of upgrades of his own. I doubt it. The reason, though, that this build order is once more finding some popularity for Zerg. So the build order where you skip the Roach Warren and you just go straight to Ling Bane play, you go straight for Ling upgrades, is because the Baneling with centrifugal hooks, which is something we need to start up, it once more, of course, on the new patch has 5 additional health. That's one of the reasons, I guess, why maybe Solar thinks that playing against a late-game Terran is actually totally fine. He didn't start up the upgrade, which is quite painful. He's got a lot of creep threat, though, so maybe that'll make things a little bit easier. But normally the defense here for Zerg... Yeah, it is, by the way, for Hellbats. Normally the defense for Zerg is when you find that Baneling speed upgrade, but he is, I think, forgotten about it. A little bit painful, although you never really know if this is going to be done in time anyway. Rocks get destroyed, and this is going to funnel all of those Zerg units down just one entrance into this engagement. Lovely start to a fight right here for ByuN, but the question is, does he have the numbers? In the meantime, the Banshees have been destroying some units as well. 5 drones have gone down. Ooh, Marines inside of the speed-up circle can very quickly dispose of a lot of those Zerg units. And I wonder if the hatchery will still go down. Ooh, Baneling. Yeah, Banelings do a little dance. The numbers, though, just barely favor Solar. He's got to be wondering when the Baneling speed kicks in. Maybe he's doing it on purpose. We're going Infestation Pit. He's got to be wondering by now why it still has not finished up. At least that's what I do, man. Whenever I see an aggressive push coming in from Terran like that, I frantically glance at the Baneling Nest to figure out whether or not the upgrade is finishing and whether or not I can roll them in for the defense. Nice little play here from ByuN. He actually decided to finish the job that he started earlier. Still keeping all of those units around. Yeah, now he finally checked. Okay, we will go for the upgrade here in the end. Keep in mind, though, that this was a 5th base right here for Solar. Not the end of the world to lose that whatsoever. Secondary push here as well from ByuN right now on the left flank. Siege tank does go down, and apparently that's all that Solar really wanted. But forgetting the Baneling speed upgrade really is going to make all of these pushes way more manageable for the Terran. ByuN's got to realize at this point that a mistake has been made. He's already built a 4th command center, though. If this was like an 8 Rex all-in, we do have 8 barracks right now, but it's off of a 4th command center. If this would have been a complete all-in, I wonder if ByuN would have been able to obtain the victory, because I think defending an 8 Rex without Bane speed is pretty much impossible. Solar, though, is paying the price for forgetting the upgrade, but it's nothing all too significant. Lurker then coming up right now together with a Hive. +2/+2 is just a little bit away right now as well for ByuN. So those Marines are going to find a very significant power spike here in just a moment. And now with the 4th command center being secured in the meantime, while this engagement is going on, we should see him starting to make the transition towards a Ghost Academy as well. Little Marine drop again, sneaking around the site. ByuN is taking a moment here to heal his units back up. We'll see them stimming in just a moment, I'm sure. Sensor tower at the front. Zergling run by over here as well, over at the third base yet again of the Terran. There's that little Marine push going in, and I believe that this is going to be another kill on another hatch. Planetary Fortress finishes up. But so far, I don't think Solar is too unhappy. Solar's game plan, so we have another attack as well on the left. Solar's game plan is to basically be a punching bag until this is done, until the Vipers are done, until the Lurkers are fully upgraded, until Adrenal Glands is finished, until we get the double upgrades over here finished too, until we get the Nidus Worm done. That's usually when Solar springs into motion and actually decides to go for some aggression. And while it hasn't been smooth sailing, I also don't think it's really the end of the world. The creep spread is decent. I mean, very good for my standards. But for Solar standards, I think you would have liked it, especially on the left side of the map, to be a little bit further out. The creep spread is good enough at the very least. His eco is also pretty dang solid. He hasn't really done anything about the Terran's economy, but that really isn't part of his game plan anyways. Very late pickup there from ByuN, but he does get the job done just barely. Ghost Academy is indeed now finished. We decided to plant it in the mineral line. Don't know why. It doesn't really matter. Base is just about to run out of juice anyway. It's a very ByuN move, by the way, to just build it smack dead in the middle of the mineral line. He does this all the time. Now, at this point, yeah, we have Vipers, we have loads of Hydras as well. Yoink! And that'll be the end of that medevac drop. It'll become a lot more difficult moving forward for ByuN to get those medevac drops done. Ghost production, though, has begun. Yep, and as expected, these two are indeed playing a big macro game yet again. Quadruple command center, building all at the same time right now for ByuN. Nidus Worm now goes up, though. It is time for Solar to pick up the pace. APM is going to have to skyrocket here for both players. Nice defense for ByuN, though. He already was anticipating it. He left a little hit squad of units over there inside of the main base. ByuN does not quite pay attention to this little engagement because in the meantime, there's also a threat right over here at the front with a Blinding Cloud going down on the bio units instead. Maybe it should have gone on top of the siege tank in hindsight. Nidus Worm goes up in the back of the main base yet again, although there are still Marines waiting. Little Zerglings over at the watchtower trying their best too. Solar desperately trying to prevent this 5th command center from finishing up into a planetary fortress, and he will achieve that goal for now. He's paying a very hefty price tag for it, though. We have only one Lurker, by the way. Curious. Solar builds up onto Lurkers this entire game through, and then, well, he only makes one. I love this. Difficult for Zerg to reach. Spore Crawlers are not going to be enough. We do have a Spire coming, though, pretty early, all things considered. They're, of course, a little cheaper, so it's easier to make that transition. Corruptors will likely be the next weapon of choice. Blinding Clouds could be big. I say that, though, the majority of the Zerg units here at the front have already disappeared. There are still Zerglings ravaging the mineral line, and that's 20 SCVs down the drain. ByuN was already rebuilding them. But you can tell here that suddenly Solar has decided to, put all of his eggs into the aggression basket. 450 average actions per minute right now. It's been going up and up and up. Still, though, ByuN's been doing an excellent job defending. Queens are going to get sniped. Units are going to get surrounded. Not enough anti-air, though, for the Zerg to really push this away. We do have the Hydralisk dash ability, too, but not really using it yet. Solar decides to take a load of expansions now. He must have seen the influx of Terran command centers. So he is taking some very aggressive bases here, too. And this one is a big one. If Solar can sneakily mine this, that's going to be minerals that ByuN will never be able to get. And this is most definitely ByuN's next expansion. This is a map with a very interesting well, amount of resources in general, there are, of course, these gold bases that we rarely see come into effect. Basically, the way it works is you have to destroy the cooling tower, which will then collapse on top of the Zelnaga tower, which you can then destroy the rocks off, and then the base is available. It is the most convoluted way in StarCraft 2 to get an expansion. Rarely do we actually see it come into effect. But it'd be nice. An additional 4 command centers go down. Okay. 12 orbital commands? I think that's about the upper limit. I don't think you really want to go more than 12 orbitals. Building armor coming up. High-sec auto-tracking already finished. We go for the +2 as well right now for the mechanical units, and judging by the second armory, we are going to be double upgrading 6 command centers on the production tab. Calm down, ByuN. Dude, I have seen a lot of late games from ByuN over the years, and sometimes he just gets carried away. He now finds out about this expansion. Honestly, an important catch. This is not a base that he can really get stolen very easily. The drones will return, though. And this is going to put a lot of pressure on ByuN. So, ByuN's general game plan is to win on sheer cost efficiency. So, assuming you can mine 50% of the map, and you trade cost effectively the entire way through, and you can see that reflected right now in the resources lost, well, it's an easy math equation to figure out, right? Terran should pull very far ahead. The problem is, this base is most definitely Terran, right? Like, this is certainly an expansion to Terran in that instance, in that strategy. Shoot mine. Likewise, though, one of the 2 bases in the corners should also be one of the Terrans. And even though Solar's being a little cheeky with this base right over here, the top right and the bottom left have been mining for a while already. And what I really love is that Solar actually pulled drones from easier to mine bases to expansions that may be more important the longer that the game goes on. Because once these minerals are gone, they're gone. So if Solar can mine out both the bottom left as well as the top right, cost effectiveness can effectively be thrown out of the window. Well, that is one way of getting the cost efficiency done, though. Massive fungal growth, and Infestor was hiding behind that mineral line for a while already. No sensor tower or missile turret rudder within range. No Raven, of course. Zergling run by going in. Dude, I'm starting to get nerd chills with the way that Solar has been playing Zerg. Whew. It's really beautiful. Look at the mini-map. We're 17.5 minutes in. Well, this is not ideal. But Solar is managing so many things. This is 100% a winning strategy right now. ByuN needs to do something about those corner bases. I don't think he can win it if he gets... If Solar, that is. If Solar gets both of them. This planetary fortress is going to fall. We have a Terran mech transition. ByuN is adding on factories right now. He's going from Marine Marauder Medevac into Ghosts into Ghost Mech. Now, this is an important snipe. He gets the base on the right down, sure. But now he also is working on at least the mining in the far bottom left. These watchtower expansions are going to be critical at this rate. Solar is not yet in a position where he's able to bleed out his opponent. Yes, he's got a massive amount of economy. Oh, by the way, I don't really know how this works out right now. Normally, Ghost Mech is super good. But the Greater Spire units, the Brood Lords, have been buffed significantly. Yeah, there they are. So they've always had a bug. Ever since 2010, when a unit was introduced, so when StarCraft 2 released, there was a bug on the Brood Lord that made the unit just feel a little bit clumsy. They have fixed the bug in the most recent balance patch, and they already knew how to fix it for years. But they were very hesitant to make the change because it really does make the unit just deal consistently more damage over time. Now, to compensate, they have nerfed the movement speed of the Broodlord. But honestly, I don't know if it's enough. Some snipies over here, though, could be nice. I don't really know how this late game dynamic works out. Maybe Ghost Mech is terrible. Maybe Broodlords are actually going to prove to be overpowered. Kind of a funny thing to say. Bunch of siege tanks over here are going to go down as well, though. And all of this is just to try and delay the mining on this particular base. Now, ByuN indeed has 12 orbital commands. I think 12 is about where you need to draw the line. This is lovely, though, here. The Liberator earlier doing a very similar thing for the Terran. Now we have the Brood Lords, well, killing stuff a hell of a lot faster. 15 SCVs died just like that. I think we have now also approached the late game, though, where ByuN is not going to be adding on a lot more SCVs, but he will probably try to just get more and more attacking units down instead. Thors still outrange Brood Lords. Neural Parasite coming up. Yo, is this the return of Broodlord Infestor? I honestly don't know. Broodlord Infestor was a unit composition that has been nerfed multiple times. There have been 2 metas. The end of Wings of Liberty and a few years later than that, there have been 2 metas where Broodlord Infestor absolutely dominated everything. I mean, Microbial Shroud is buffed on the Infestor. The Broodlord itself has been improved significantly too. Obviously, the game is a hell of a lot more complex, and it's certainly not just Broodlords and not just Infestors, but maybe this is the return of one of the old and golden strategies. Vikings are also cheaper, though, so that is something to note. And when Broodlord Infestor was very oppressive, the Infested Terran was still a spell that the Infestor had. That was the main source of anti-air. Obviously, that's no longer a viable choice. What in the world is this hit squad? We have a Ghost Medevac Thor drop in the bottom left to kill one of the outer bases. And now they're stuck! Okay. Somebody make a Step Thor joke, I guess? I'm not gonna do it. Base in the top right, though, has also been destroyed. Vikings going to town. Solar has decided to free his opponent. I honestly don't know if you should have. What a beautiful game. No, ByuN, this is stupid. We should stop. ByuN keeps on making command centers. This is actually a big problem. Like, once you build like 20 plus command centers or so, you're just not gonna get the value out of it anymore. Usually when you're maxed out as a Terran, it's a good moment to add on CCs, but there is an upper limit, and ByuN believes it's like 30. I think 30 command centers is too much. With an orbital command, they're 550 minerals each. If we look at the total resources lost right now, it's about 30k minerals gone for Solar. But if you make 30 orbital commands, that's like 15,000 minerals lost for the Terran right then and there. Considering there's a finite amount of minerals you can mine on the map, I mean, this entire cast turns into a math equation right now, but seriously, there's not that much money that you can actually reliably support 30 command centers. I think it's too much. We may end up in a situation where you can mine out a base just like this in minutes, but then there's nothing you can do with the orbital commands anymore. What in the world is this, by the way, Solar? I didn't even... What is this abomination? Do you think Solar doesn't know that this cooling tower breaks the Xel'Naga tower? No, he's gotta know. It's just probably APM-wise too much of a hassle. Broodlords trying their very best over here. Some parasitic bombs onto the Vikings. Top right-hand corner is being resecured right now. We're gonna see the fusion core together with a starport added into the mix, so I would imagine that's going to be for the Liberators and then the Medevacs as well. Dude, this is the type of game that makes you wonder if there's ever going to be another RTS that's gonna come along and overtake StarCraft 2. This is gaming as an art form, dude. Oh no, ByuN doing the same thing right now. In the upper right corner. Ugh. There's really no reason to mine the base optimally or efficiently, so it doesn't matter. But it's so ugly. Ugh. Alright. I gotta say, though, Solar's bank is not as big as I expected it to be at this stage. ByuN has done a really good job keeping on the pressure. He has now taken this base. He's been denying the top right. He's been denying the bottom left. His bank is looking pretty darn solid. And with this many orbitals, he can actually mine out a base so quick. Still though, Solar is going in for what seems to be a big attack now. We haven't really seen a clash between the two gigantic armies just yet. But Solar is creeping his direction here. And he's also bringing the queens, the spore crawlers, and all the rest of it. So despite having more supply dedicated to workers, the spore crawlers can make up some of that difference. Do we have enough? Do we have enough as a Terran here to break through all of this? I am not entirely sure. I also don't know if Vikings are actually a good choice here in the late game for Terran. They're certainly the right choice against Protoss late game, but against Zerg, I don't know. Fungal growth, parasitic bomb, it just kills stuff so fast. Look at how quickly that command center just died. Still though, the Thors are putting in a lot of work, and these are phenomenal. But once there's enough Broodlings on the floor, they can really start tripping over themselves. That's why the Blue Flame Hellbats are there, to try and roast the Broodlings. But this is one of those Terran unit compositions that makes a lot of sense, but it hangs together by a thread. A lot of ways in which this can go horribly wrong for the Terran. While the Zerg is preoccupied though, ByuN is landing another set of mules on that base, sneakily trying to mine it out. One of the big downsides though of Broodlord Infestor is that it's a pretty immobile unit composition, right? Especially with the movement speed nerf. It is not going to be easy for Zerg to reposition and then also use this army to go for the defense in the top right and the bottom left. Still, this is so many broods. Yeah, the Thors are spending a lot of time killing broodlings, but that is not quite optimal for them. Broodlord's going in around this side yet again. Honestly, Broodlords may be overpowered. I'm not sure what you do as Terran against it. I know that's a crazy statement. Neural Parasites are going to be coming up next. Yep. Well, maybe I spoke a little too soon. The Broodlords are actually getting pushed away. The EMPs right there from the Ghosts prove to be critical. If half of those stores would have switched sides, I mean, if like 3 of those stores switched sides, this would have been an absolute disaster. Lucky there for ByuN, he caught it early, because those were infestors on a mission. Let's have a look at the resources lost. 10,000 minerals more on the side of Solar, but 500 gas in favor of the Zerg. So, yeah, ByuN is still maxed. But the big problem here, look at the army value though in the top left. Solar can lose about 80% of units, maybe a little bit less than that, and then still remax, whereas ByuN is pretty much unable to reproduce these units. Although, I say that with this many mules mining, the mineral count does go up very rapidly, but these are some very expensive armies. And I actually think that the reason why ByuN is, well, still doing quite well in these fights, but not quite winning, is because the Zerg has invested way more right now into their army. Look at this. 7,800 gas for one Zerg unit composition is kind of nuts. Fighting in the speed-up circle, though? Is this a good idea? We have the Liberators coming in as well, used as an anti-air tool. Corruptors and Parasitic Bomb decided to take care of that very quickly. Broodlords may have a movement speed debuff, but my god, can they nullify a lot of these fights in the acceleration zone. In the meantime, though, we do have indeed another engagement in the far bottom left. ByuN denies the mining over here yet again. Command center in the top right. Orbital can lift. Does not do it in time. And now, we're arriving at the stage in the game that Solar has been looking for this entire time. There's no more money for Terran to mine. There's no gas, or very little. We have mining over here, but these mineral fields are looking awfully skinny. Right now, all that Solar really needs to do is stay alive and deny bases. Force action on the side of the Terran by, well, baiting them out with bases. But look at this absolute roller coaster of an income graph. This should be better for Solar across the board, although I say that, he doesn't have much mining anymore himself either, but he's the one with the bigger bank. This is not over yet. ByuN has once more pulled ahead as far as the army size goes. Now only at 24 workers. He denies the base over here. Nidus Worm is going to give those drones a chance to escape, so that's nice. But Solar's not mining a whole lot. Honestly, neither player is really mining a whole lot. We're going back to effectively one base, which is what it's like in the early game. ByuN has been given enough time here, and he's bought enough time for himself to remax. And now he's at 176 supply. 10,000 minerals, 8,200 gas though for the Zerg. That's a ludicrously expensive army. I love the blue flame hellbats though in the front. Dude, what a game. I can't believe this. This is so sick. Patch is so new. Fungal growth over there though on those hellbats, really quite painful. ByuN is going to replace some of the lost supply there with some more ghosts. Command Center is going to try and be settled over here in the bottom left, but Solar already long distance mining it. I think, though, we need to be keeping the camera on this engagement right here. Fighting in a choke point seems dangerous, but ByuN is going to try and see if he can force his way through. Another fungal growth, though, and at this point, Solar is basically just... I mean, it's a weird form of stutter stepping, right? But he is throwing a fungal, letting the Brute Lords fly their little children at the Terran army, and then backing up a little bit. And ByuN is bleeding out units because of it. ByuN wants to have a straight-up engagement where he can use those Thors and their superior range, but so far he's not getting it. Base on the bottom left, by the way, should be up, yeah, very soon. So that's going to be a nice income boost here for the Zerg. Brute Lords, though, going in around the left, or the Thors, rather. And the Ghost here, trying to get a good engagement going. Solar decides to give up on the expansion over there. No reason to put a lot of effort into defending that one. I think you can take this, yes. ByuN is aiming for this expansion over here and then also the one in the top right. I think it makes a lot of sense. Maybe it's time for Solar to try and take the Watchtower expansion yet again too in the bottom left. Oh, is this the fight? Is this really an engagement you can take though, ByuN? I don't know how you take a fight here as Terran. Like, if Zerg controls all of this correctly, it'll be very hard. Fungal growths, blinding clouds, now the Thors are starting to get exposed, and that's exactly what Solar was looking for. He gets an EMP, but that's not going to be early enough. The Thor numbers are absolutely, well, decimated now, and this should be it. What a brilliant game of StarCraft 2. Yeah, Solar is going to be able to get the job done. He doesn't know it, though. He is being very cautious with his Brute Lords, but ByuN decides to rip off the Band-Aid himself. It is Solar who gets the 1-0 advantage. Ley lines it is. Game number 2, it is best of 3. Keep in mind that professional gamers, believe it or not, are human. And therefore... they have a finite amount of things they can do in a day. Before they need a reset, usually that's at night, where you go to what we call sleep. I know, crazy concept, although for a lot of gamers, night. Maybe during the day. Either way, I don't know if we're gonna be seeing a game like the one that we just watched again. Because those games are exhausting. Playing at near 500 APM or so, 400-500 for a half hour long, not even considering the amount of like effort it takes just for your brain to be able to keep making decisions. It is exhausting. Solar opening up, of course, with the good old hatchery first, the more modern start. case you're wondering why we keep seeing extractor tricks now. So what Zergs do these days is they drone up to 14, they make an extractor, make another drone, cancel the extractor, which puts them out of at 15 out of 14 total supply. And the idea behind it is that you can get an extra drone out without having to make an overlord. Now, for the longest time, it was assumed, ever since 2015, when Legacy of the Void came out, somebody tested this, and it was assumed that the 13 Overlord was superior to the Extractor Trick 15 hatch. About a year, maybe a half year or so ago, Lambo, European pro gamer, decided to actually test it out himself, and he found out, actually, no. The guy that did the numbers back in 2015 must have been kind of bad at the game, or maybe too slow with the extractor trick. It is actually optimal to do an extractor trick instead. Which I find very funny. Like, we make a lot of assumptions, right? About how StarCraft 2 is supposed to be played. As in, like, okay, there's a lot of agreements. Like, hey, this build order is not viable. That build order is not really optimal. But it turns out that literally the very first thing that Zerg players would do, other than make a drone in the early game, it turns out there was about a second of optimization right then and there. And that is something that, globally, I think 13 Overlord must have been played millions of times if you take the entire player base of StarCraft 2. Like, that's a build that everybody just assumed was the start of any strategy. Turns out it's not optimal. Now, it also turns out, if you are a ladder hero, that probably 13 Overlord is better. Just because you have to be pretty much perfect with the way that you are mining in the earlier stages of the game. One thing that the pro gamers also do in the first few minutes is optimize the mineral positioning for the SCVs themselves. So this makes about a 20 mineral difference or so if you do it perfectly. Now, obviously, these two are yapping a lot in the early game, so maybe they're skipping it, but what you'll usually see before there's 16 drones on minerals, so 2 per mineral field, is the Zerg players, the Terran players, and the Protoss players doubling up on the close-by mineral fields first. Because if you let the drones automatically harvest, they will pick whatever mineral field is available. And it's little things like that that squeeze just a little bit more juice out of the early game. The problem is, it takes a lot of APM, it takes a lot of effort, and if you mess it up once, you completely negate all of the advantages that you could have potentially gained. Little optimizations like that, of course, fall, well, very short very soon. At this point, it will be pretty much impossible for the players to still be min-maxing those sorts of mineral lines, because, you know, being human and all that. Being bottlenecked by being human. Very frustrating. But there's a lot of little plays that pro gamers do in the earlier stages just to get a slight bit more value. Now, it's a triple command center opener here for ByuN yet again. I'm liking this start a little bit better for Solar across the board. So far, he really hasn't been hurt whatsoever. He's also skipping out the very quick +1 carapace upgrade in favor of a faster lair, and then also faster baneling speed. +1/+1 coming up right now for ByuN here in a moment. Third command center, though, has landed. We have barracks 2 and 3 currently being built. It's very likely, I wouldn't be surprised at all if ByuN decides to go for like an 8 Rex over here. Ooh, really? Okay, well, maybe an 8 Rex is indeed one of the plays for Terran. But Solar's rushing Mutas again. Solar may honestly turn out to be like one of the best players this patch. Other players, like for example Rogue, like for example Shin, seem to be struggling a little bit more. But Solar is playing some very confident StarCraft. I really liked what he was doing in ZVP with those, well, very aggressive timing attacks, bringing in the Queen drops again. Even though he ended up losing that series against MaxSpecs. That was mostly due to MaxSpecs just being an absolute god. He just played... His Stalker micro was ridiculous in that series. But I think across the board, Solar is experimenting with all of the right things. And now we're gonna go to Mutas. Mutalisk Bane. There we go. So the changes made to the Spire, and you can see that Solar is also a little bit conflicted by it still. It builds faster, and it's 150 minerals and 150 gas, rather than 200. The timing right here on the Evo chambers is a little bit out of whack. So he makes a batch of mutas, then starts up the +1 attack inside of that Spire, and then we go into the 1-1 upgrades. Those Evo chambers were on idle for a little bit. Probably could delay those by about 20 seconds. Nice console over here on the hatch. It's because the mutas are not quite going after the Banshees. They could easily kill it. Yeah, what are we going to do with him? He wants to make sure that there is no vision. He saw that the Hellions were leaving. He could easily clean up the Banshees. Ooh. But he's now moving those mutas to the other side of the map completely unscouted, and it's so uncommon. There is not a single missile turret inside of any of these bases. It's so uncommon for Zerg to go mutas in 2025 that ByuN is not prepared for it at all. Now, he did send all of his units to the other side of the map. Killing one of the outer bases for the Zerg is nice. Reinforcing units do pop out of the command out of the barracks here. And that's nice and all, but a siege tank goes down and loads of SCVs are dying. Where do you go now, ByuN? Do you go home? A little bit of indecisiveness on the side of the Terran. Just parking his units out on the, well, middle of nowhere. I think it's better for Solar to lose a hatchery than it is for ByuN to lose 15 SCVs in a siege tank. Reinforcing mutas are also working away at the Banshees. Those also end up falling. Baneling speed is done. And the mutas are going to come home for defense duty now. The clock is ticking, ByuN. I don't think you can really sit out here for too much longer. Solar's checking whether or not there's any reinforcements moving in. He sees that the Terran army is still parked out there. I think Solar has two options. Either he engages the bottom right and cleans up these units, or he goes for a full counterattack, forcing the retreat. Maybe he just decides to play this as safely as possible instead, though. Yeah, I feel like there's an opportunity that's being wasted right now by Solar, but it is the safest approach. A couple of free Widow Mines. There's a missile turret now, but +1 is done on these units. Mutas are going to be needed at home. Let's see. ByuN has brought all of his troops back together in one big ball. Base is being built again at the bottom of the map. But this is a Zerg army that has got some real potential. And the thing about mutas is that they are going to make retreating pretty much impossible. They will just clean up any unit that decides to try and make their way back. Unless ByuN uses all of the Marines, but here we go. This is the moment where apparently Solar decides to pull the trigger. Siege tank is getting targeted down by the Mutalisk themselves, and this is over. Solar just absolutely... he just absolutely decimated his opponent with Mutalisk Bane. What a brilliant series here from Zerg. Honestly, I've been a little bit worried for ZVT on the new patch. It just seems that, I mean, obviously I've only seen a handful of games, right? And obviously the patch is still very new. Most of the games have taken place on the new maps as well from the TLMC, so you gotta take everything with a grain of salt, but I feel like across the board, Zerg is not really looking too strong against Terran on the new patch, but Solar is doing all the right things here, and honestly, I'm not really even sure what you would do as a Terran against Broodlords.